Sunday Times best-selling author, television presenter, conductor, presenter, actor, because you've done panto, so we'll do that. No, we're going to do that. We do that. No, we're going there. We're going there.
You can do the BAFTA because my mum might be listening.
BAFTA winner.
Winning, yeah.
Wonderful son, unbelievable friend, and a barrister. So when you were little and you made a little list of things that you wanted to do when you were grown up,
yeah,
were any of those things on that list?
I don't know. I can't remember because I've so invented my childhood. As I got older, I reimagined what I was like as a child and what I imagined I would do. I don't know. Is it weird? I wonder if your listeners feel like this, Gabby. I feel every time you say anything good or I guess all of those things have got a social cachet. People go, oh, well done, clap, clap. I feel this sort of internal sense, oh, cringe. Say something.
Yeah, because you don't like being paid a compliment. No! I've known you for a very long time.
It's so
And even when we go out as friends away from it all, if I say anything nice to you, your body just goes, do that.
I don't trust it.
But trust me, you are a very, truly wonderful human being.
That's very, very sweet.
But you're all of those things I just listed as well.
I have done those things, yes, but some of them to a limited degree of success. That's true. I did. Thank you very much.
Right, you've won a BAFTA.
Also, can we just talk about something else? I feel like people should know that there's this other curious element about this dynamic of me sitting here with you, which is that I've never really been impressed necessarily with inverted commas famous people. Over the years, some of my friends from uni went on to become mega famous, and even the ones that are super Hollywood or perhaps very important human rights barristers, lovely, but they're either colleagues or once you've met an actor, after the initial flush of recognition, what do you talk about? But the people that were famous when you were a kid, especially where I grew up in television, it never gets old when you see them. You never get unimpressed or unexcited or feel like you walked away thinking,
you were working with Liz Hurley.
I carried a watermelon. Big breakfast.
Oh,
I used to get up and watch you. I'm sorry, it's not about you, but I've got to share it. Every time I see you or you have an encounter, I am like a young teenager about to go to school. It doesn't matter how nice or kind or thoughtful or how deep our friendship becomes. There is always an element, and anybody that's watched Dirty Dancing will understand this, where I walk away thinking, bloody hell, I carried a watermelon. Did I do well? It's a thing.
Oh, my goodness.
It's the same. Don't get overexcited. It was the same when I met Zamo Maguire from Grange Hill.
Grange Hill.
Yeah.
I loved Grange Hill.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, well, thank you.
But now I'm normal again because I'm having a gin and tonic.
I love that you're having a gin and tonic. Right. So, but your life is extraordinary. We've had that conversation in real life where you've said to me, this is extraordinary.
It is extraordinary.
I mean, the barrister bit we are going to talk about because that's important, because that's sort of at the root of everything that you are, that you do, that you feel. You're a very fair person. We've had some very deep conversations about good people and bad people and all sorts of things. But you're a very fair person. So all of those things that you do are all, you do weigh things up very carefully.
I try to be. I guess when you talk about the things that I've been able to do and the buffet of life, it feels like some of it is food that's been cooked by me and earned. Being a barrister, a huge amount of investment and work, and the documentaries I make similarly, there's a great deal of capital that goes into it, albeit as a community, but there's a sense of ownership and the books, etc. And some of it you get to do just because you're famous, and so the conducting. Exactly so, although that was fun. That was absolute heaven. And what joy that is to delight in, just being able to give people tawdry escapism around Christmas in this uniquely British way. I blooming love it. But leaving that aside, things like, as I say, conducting and...
there's some footage on your Instagram of you conducting. And because I know you well... There's this look that you do. It actually makes me want to get emotional. But you look over your right shoulder and the look in your eyes is pure joy.
Oh, it's spiritual sex. I mean, I am no good at it, really. And I started doing music properly, really, in lockdown, so only 5 years ago. And an orchestra who I love, Orion, invited me to be their present. And I want as many people, when I love something, I want Rylan, in fact, said this in our first grand tour. He described it as me not being a selfish lover. But when I love something, I want it matters to me that everybody else comes and enjoys it, delights in it too. Especially if it's the type of thing that has been put on the list of things or the bookshelf beyond people's fingertips. It's been told that people have been told it's not what they might love. And that usually is, inverted commas, the great art and great classical music or opera or whatever. And that's especially true of our country, where class is a thing in a much more gatekeepy way than it is in other countries. And so I guess I got the chance to conduct, albeit only do little bits and pieces. But if you get the chance to do it, and brilliant conductors are in a moment, they are pulsing with the orchestra, they're speaking to them through this human connection that's impossible to describe. But whatever your faith or none, there's this uniquely human element to it which is truly magical. Now, the great conductors can keep that going, that connection, for a whole symphony. In my case, I can do it for about, maybe 3 minutes, sometimes a few seconds. That says a great deal about another. But when that happens, in other words, because you're not speaking to an orchestra, you're looking at the score, and there's a moment where you might just have something you're inviting perhaps the clarinets to do, or the violins, but there's a sound that's in your head, and you are shaping a sound that becomes a colour, and everybody simultaneously knows exactly what you're asking of them, even though you're not speaking. It's deep form of spiritual telepathy, and boy, is that connection incredible. I keep using that word connection. I've been told that that's similar when one has great sex, where you are doing more than just the physical act. There's this other complexion to it, which is so powerful. And when you get into that groove and that zone, you just want it more and more and more. And that's the stuff of great conducting, which I can't do. But for those few seconds, boy, is there a delicious sense of musical climax.
Are you like that with your writing as well?
No.
You're not?
No. And I talk about this a lot. I think that it depends what type of writing. So I can write prose very, very easily. I've done a lot of history documentaries where people can go and look at written work that I'll do in support of it. So, for example, I went with Philippa Langley, who was the brilliant historian who found the princes in the Tower, and I supported her work. And people,
Channel 5.
No, that one was on Channel 4.
Oh, that's
and that
Channel 4
that was
one.
last year. But one that's coming out with Fern Riddell, who's an incredible historian who's got a book called Victoria's Secret. What was her relationship with John Brown like? Very interesting. And what I do is hopefully empower this historian to, much like the music, much like the books, to invite people to come in. People tell you that you're one thing, that you are perhaps not interested in history, or perhaps you've been told that you're not intelligent enough, or this isn't your thing. And all of that is BS. And what I hope any program I'm part of just reminds people that they are not one thing, and empowers them to remember them at their cleverest selves, of which most people truly have a thirst to be. And what I do with these historians is just do that, read their history book, go,
You're being generous because you're
No, that's how I feel.
sharing this with everybody.
Yeah, but I love teaching. This is what I say. It's just sharing. When I think something's great, I can't. It's not enough that it's just for me. It's like, come and have a go. Look at this. And also, just to be clear, I'm not the type of person that loves a film. You're on a date and you get the date round, and you might love a film or love a piece of music, and you put it on, and then you're watching them watching it, and I don't think I can shag them, frankly, if they don't love this piece of music. I'm not doing that. I never want people to have an authentic reaction. I just want people to come and have a go. And actually, it's much more powerful and honest and beautiful when they have gone in, been culturally curious enough and open enough to have a go or listen or watch, and walked away go, didn't like it. That's fine, as long as it's honest. But they had a go. So
but that's what you and Ryland do. I mean, that's
true.
That's incredible.
But with the writing, I can write prose very, very quickly. And, I've written a textbook and I enjoyed doing that. But in the fiction, the initial plan was to write a book about 3 cases I did, which resulted in acquittals, but where all of the defendants had actually committed the crime. And it was really about the fact that they had defences in 2 of the cases. And in the first book, and in one of the cases, I couldn't continue with the case because I was ethically compromised, and that person was acquitted, despite him having committed the offence, a very awful offence. So these 3 cases, and I went in to the publishers and just assumed that they'd be thrilled about the book, which is about how class affects people's experience of the justice system. I mean, that's an intellectual, and maybe some other mic drop. They'll be keen. Anyway, have you ever seen Charlie Brooker's Screen Wipe? Do you remember years ago? And you see that thing about what happens in TV pitches, where it's like 3-minute explainer about the world, and you go in with this great high-minded idea that you want to make a documentary like Claude Lanzmann's Shoah, or some other very important piece of documentary work, and by the time it's gone around the table of TV executives, it comes out as Topless Darts. We should have this how Tony works.
Yeah.
So not dissimilar from that. I went in and they went, oh, you should do a whodunit. And so all 3 of those subplots still exist in the first 3 novels, but the overarching plots of the books, which are whodunits, I'm very proud of, and they're fun and entertaining, to be sure, I hope. But they're much harder to write because they're not the music that I have talent for. Do you remember Christopher Hitchens?
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
a voice that I think is so missed. He used to hang out with, Martin Amis and Salman Rushdie and James Fenton.
You imagine those conversations.
What a crowd. And we know about some of those conversations. He was once asked, he had these incredibly successful books of poetic prose, and he had a very strong political philosophy. Why did you never do the thing of writing like your great hero Orwell through fiction, sharing some of your, let's say, philosophical thoughts about the world through fictional characters? And without missing a beat, he said, I don't have the musical ear. And I was like, I get you.
But you do.
I struggle with that. I struggle with that. But the other work I don't struggle with, making documentaries and
you've made some unbelievable, extraordinarily personal and life-changing and thought-provoking documentaries. And you've done light stuff as well. You've done the fun stuff. You've done all of that. But I know that the documentaries mean everything to you.
They do.
They come from really deep inside.
They really do. I really love. I love. It's really interesting sitting with you. I'd feel conscious in any other company talking about, using the word love. It feels so. I'm wearing a Choose Love hoodie, and before we started, I was like, oh, maybe I should take it off. The word love is, I think, that's one of the few words. What's that like? Hymn used to sing at song. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. But at the same time, if it's overused, I always wonder whether or not it becomes diluted. We lose its power. But actually, when I'm with you, I don't feel embarrassed saying I love something.
Good, I'm pleased.
I really love them. And what I mean by love is that, you get up in the morning and whatever else is going on, whatever the emotional weather, somehow the clouds disappear and you're really invested in the community that make the work. So I really do love them. And at their heart, in the connective tissue between all of them, it's just a form of teaching or of pointing or of going, oi, wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever background, have a listen.
But also, a lot of it we have to keep talking about.
Yeah.
Because if we don't talk about it, it's just going to disappear into and in the books. Somebody's going to read it and they won't feel what you have shared. And it's really important you do those documentaries in the same way, and it might sound flippant, but in the same way that the other things that you do that are fun and that are enjoyable. There's so many layers to you and Ryland's show. It really, it's multi-layered, and we're going to get there in a minute because there's something that I read that Ryland said about you, and I want to check if that's true. But all of those things, the fun as well, I always get from you that it comes from the heart. Do you ever say no if you don't want to do something?
Yeah.
Are you able to say no?
Oh, yeah.
See, that's really empowering.
It's taken me a really long time. What an important word you just used. No is such an empowering word.
It really is.
In the early days, I felt and continue to feel so obscenely lucky that I get to do this stuff. I mean, why me? It's absurd, right? And
It's not absurd. Stop putting yourself. No, it's not absurd. You're a very fair, good man.
To be sure, I'm not going to agree with that. But what I will accept is that there are moments where I think, oh, this is good, and sometimes I don't. But nevertheless, there are also incredible other people out there, many of whom will be listening, think, I'd like to do that, and they'd probably be great. And there's a huge element of luck that's involved. Certainly, how I ended up on telly in the first place was luck, right?
People might not know that story. That's actually quite.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll come back to it. It was luck, and also coincided with a moment in my career as a barrister. I was doing very high-profile, important work, defending in very challenging cases involving murders and terrorism and people trafficking, and prosecuting big global corruption cases. And I was miserable, and life turned on a dime. And now, look, this range of things I've got to do. And why I say, it feels slightly challenging to think, well, I mean, that I'm good at it, is that I'm good at some of it, and lots of other people would be too. That's.
But that again, you're being very generous. You're being generous to other, and I think it's unfair that a lot of people don't get a chance to do.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I agree. We're in a very privileged, very lucky position. Can I ask you about the Ryland thing?
Ask me anything.
Ryland, in the papers yesterday, there was a day in the life of, or one of those.
Of him?
Oh, yeah, and it said that everyone wants to know if it's true that you and he are the first people that you speak to every single day.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and he said, I haven't spoken to him yet, but we speak every day.
Speak often. I mean, he's a...
Your friendship is really...
Oh, no, it's real. I mean,
real.
It comes together in a much more concentrated fashion when we're working, when we go... but
everybody wants to think you're going out with each other.
I know,
it's so bizarre.
You know what's really terrifying, love, is that people generate AI deepfakes about us getting married. And the pictures are so...
I hate those AI deepfakes. They're very frightening.
They're really frightening. But I mean, I think I heard that somebody had cut and pasted me into the actual pictures of Ryland's first wedding.
What?
I know, it's so funny. Isn't it interesting? I find it really fascinating that people don't sit comfortably with the idea that you can have absolutely non-sexual platonic love.
I find it really weird. But it seems to be that as a gay couple, they seem to find it strange. I can say to my girlfriends, I can say "love you," which I do to all my girlfriends. We always type it, and we, if we're messaging each other, "How are you today? Love you. How you do?" Those sort of things. Nobody bats an eyelid. But if two men are obviously straight men, gay men, whatever. Straight men say that to each other. They go, "Oh no, you can't say that to me."
Well, but I guess that's true, and there is that assumption, and self-evidently I can understand why. But I wonder, if you had a really close platonic friendship with a straight guy, how comfortably that would sit socially, or what the assumptions people would make. There's a complexion that it's just sort of...
But I do love my friends and my family, and we're very, very blessed to have, both of us have very dear, dear friends, and you've got...
That's my most important friend.
Yeah, same. I totally, totally agree with you. Let's go back to the book that's out.
Yeah.
Sunday Times bestselling author again. Yeah. Is that slightly surreal as well?
It's really nice. I really like that people read and delight in the books. And there's two kind of aspects to The Protest, which is the book that's out. There's a subplot, which was based on a real case I did. I represented a British soldier who was accused of killing an Iraqi looter in the 2003 invasion of Iraq. And it's really a story that asks a question about who's really responsible. Was he and his fellow soldiers who weren't adequately trained, to say the very least, to try and peacekeep in absolute chaos? This is before smartphones, etc., when all of the higher-ups are sending telegraphs back home going, look, there's looting going on. We're under an international legal obligation to rebuild the place. That's what we have to do in law. It's total and utter anarchy, and what do we do? and they were doing things which were clearly dangerous. They did something dangerous, resulting in the death of a boy. Absolute tragedy. They were held accountable and put on trial. Yet the people who made the initial decisions, the people who planned for how these young boys, that's what they are, 18, 19, were supposed to behave in this theatre of war, that's what we call it, weren't given adequate training. And yet somehow people with more power were never held to account. And that's true today, as it was then. So it invites us to ask those questions in a serious way. And of course, the main plot is about a very famous artist who's killed by, I'm doing this, I'm using a spray can, a protester who kills him using a spray can. And again, I mean, it's interesting, and we go in behind the scenes of the art world, and there's lots of fun to be had there, but it asks that question, what is justice? And at the end, is it very satisfying? And it kind of lifts the lid as far as possible on the world of the bar. It's called the velvet drainpipe because it used to be you'd go from an Oxford college straight into one of the Inns of Courts, which if you go and have a look, they're still there today. Haven't really changed architecturally and in many ways in practice, since the 19th century.
And for you, when you write all of these books, and congratulations on it, on all of them, but when you write these books, is that this is a strange question. Is it the barrister writing it? Is it the television presenter writing it? Which is it the musician? And I just want you to just think about that, because you're all of those.
The subplots are the barrister.
So it is that.
And the courtroom scenes are absolutely the barrister and the big challenge. And I have enormous help with my editor, to say the least, making the thing fun, because, I'm these are lovely encounters. I try to keep it light, and on the telly, if I'm doing a program about the Great Plague, obviously I want it to be fun, and I teach young kids. I used to do that in lockdown. But I do have a tendency to kind of be doer, and after a while my friends are like, this is very interesting, but I only asked one question. Recently I was climbing in Morocco with my friend, and the night before we were due to summit Tubcal, I gave her she'll be listening to this, hi Sarah, an hour and a half lecture of the history of the American Supreme Court. I think she only asked one question. You could hear, I was sort of, anyway. The barrister gets very obsessed with process. And I want people to kind of understand that lots of trials are boring. You're dealing with technical evidence, and I'll go, no, look, we need to make sure that there's a bad character application here, and so on and so on. And I'll write the bad character application, and the editor write back going, nobody cares. And that the tension between the person that wants to do entertainment, which is what these books are, what's entertainment versus educating, is a big one. It's why I don't really focus on the books as much as a documentary.
So for you, do you feel that pull between and this word, you and I have a mutual friend who we're both unbelievably proud of. In fact, my heart is so full of love for him, as you know, it's Robbie. Yeah. And Rob is an entertainer.
Incredible. But also very serious.
He's a brilliant entertainer, and he's a dear, good man. Yeah. But I'm going to say something that's going to throw you, but I think that you are also an entertainer. And I think Rob would probably say the same. I don't know. But to me, you're an entertainer, a barrister. And the real meaning of the word entertainer, not just yata-ta-ta, jazz hands, but you are an entertainer. You know how to entertain.
I don't think there's a problem with that. It doesn't sit uncomfortably. I feel like I'll take that, as a compliment. And I guess I wonder how I kind of deploy that entertaining. What do you use it for? The best teachers we ever had, the ones that you keep coming back to this word, connect to. Yeah. Do you remember the ones that were really entertaining somehow? And they
captivated you.
Right. They can have a variety of different characters. Sometimes they're super strict, but get them into their sweet spot of what they're teaching. And that entertainment could be dual. I mean, remember Sister Wendy, who she was fantastic. Yeah. Go and have a look at her on YouTube. Incredible art criticism from this nun who was a praying nun who lived in a copse for the last 20 years of her life in Norwich. But put her in front of a great piece of art or not, and have her explain it, and it's just entertaining. Yeah. And the thing that I hope is whatever I'm talking about, whether it's deeply serious or not, that it is entertaining, and entertaining meaning that somehow it's going to entertain your sense of emotional, spiritual, and cultural curiosity. If it's not that, then the opposite of entertaining is to engender indifference. And I want to achieve the
Good.
opposite.
I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased. The end of Rob's film, Better Man, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
I went for a walk after that. I remember him telling me about it. I don't necessarily have the most artistic vision, and I remember thinking, I think you might have lost it. So, I'm going to be a monkey in this film. I was like, okay, this feels a bit strange. Also, I'm not sure if it's not problematic anyway. I didn't think much of it. And then, of course, the premiere. I went to the premiere. And I was absolutely bowled over by how beautiful the work is.
Well, at the end of it and everything that he's been through, and everybody knows, it's no secret, I've known him since he was 16.
Of course he
and he says at the very end, that's it, I'm an entertainer. With all of the stuff which is now out there and everybody knows. So with you as well, with all of the stuff, you are an entertainer. And it's funny, I was thinking that on the way here today, and I thought, I don't know how Rob Rinder will take me looking at him in the eye and saying, you're an entertainer.
That's lovely. I think about 6 months ago or someone else, I'd have been more troubled by that sobriquet, that accusation. I would have, or you putting that to me. That's very barristerial, Ms. Roslin. I think that because I guess where I would feel vulnerable is where somebody would perhaps say I'm not very serious or shallow.
Oh,
not much
there's nothing shallow about you.
No, that's fine.
And you can be very serious.
To be sure.
Yeah.
And also, no, of course.
And you tackle some very, very serious
Right, but the worry
issues.
would be saying you're an entertainer means
is
right,
light.
But where I go when you say that is firstly, well, that's great because it's the opposite of indifference, but also my great hero, the person who I look to from the past, whose work and whose little portrait I've got above my piano is Leonard Bernstein, who is probably the most important kind of musical force of the 20th century. I know, don't write in, there'll be others. Yeah, the Beatles, who he loved. But West Side Story, but also
the greatest musical ever written.
To be sure, but also how he cared about bringing people into complex classical music. And he did these children's concerts, right, from the 60s, in the 60s. Right? You can watch them now. He's dealing with the most challenging, deep and complex issues, or, aspects of music. And they are so entertaining. And he will talk to you about some really deep bit of Beethoven and be using examples from Bach to the Beatles, from like Plath to Proust, and yet at the same time these children are watching on, mesmerised and changed, and that's who I
But that's what you have. Okay, that's what you have, and you're extraordinary with young people as well, and you passionately care about making their lives better. Rob, you just take that every so often. Just take it. Just take it.
I'm in. The thing that makes me happiest, like genuinely.
Okay, what makes you happiest?
Oh yeah, in work, I can say is that, and I hope, in fact, I know there are people out there that, well, when I've had a mentoree, and I can think of a few of them now, or you work with a young producer or whoever, and you see them empowered and coming to life, and then maybe you see them perhaps a few years later, and they've the completion of everything that they wanted, or just somehow something that you might have said maybe opened a door that they otherwise wouldn't have knocked at and maybe have gone through. That's the stuff.
Yeah.
The rest is kind of like detail, really. But those are things that if I were to shuffle off this mortal coil and be at the celestial court and try and persuade someone to give me a cloud of the sea view, if they asked me what the thing I was most proud of, it would definitely be those moments and those people.
Oh, how wonderful. How wonderful. You are an extraordinary person and a very dear, beautiful friend, and you have the kindest soul. Thank you for being on this, and congratulations on all of
Oh no,
it.
there's heaven.
The TV shows, the books.
Are we going to talk about Elizabeth
documentaries.
Hurley's boobies?
Shall we talk about... Okay, let's end it with Elizabeth Hurley, yes. I can't wait for this show. You and Elizabeth Hurley is possibly the campest thing ever.
It's beyond.
Oh,
You know, the thing is...
the Inheritance.
The
isn't it?
Inheritance, yeah. So people, it's made by the same people who make Traitors and Race Around the World and Squid Games, and they're really good at what they do. But in the world of documentary making, there's usually about 4 people, so I kind of know if it's what's going on, and I guess I know whether or not it's working, etc. Here,
How many people?
Yeah, sometimes 2. Yeah, fair. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm going to wait to hear what you say for the Inheritance.
Well, there's just tons of it. It's massive. It's a massive program, and I just didn't really have a clue what was going on. But I do like the concept of the program. I'm fascinated by it, and all I'll say is that it resulted in an outcome that I found both really moving and really surprising. And I don't want to give it away, but the person who ended up winning the program.
Yeah, no spoilers.
All I'm not going to spoil. Just all I'll say is that they were incredibly surprising and said something that I found enormously moving. Even now, as I'm sitting here, it really surprised me. But when Elizabeth Hurley and I met, and she is just magnificent. She's everything a young gay boy wanted to marry.
She is.
Before they realised that they'd have to do geography that they weren't necessarily interested in. I mean, it was a bit like my mum would never let me have a pink My Little Pony.
You always say this is I
said this
still
about
got to buy you one.
You haven't got one. So there are my pink
one.
My Little Ponies that you get finally in adult life. And you're stuck. You don't know what to do. Oh my God, it's Gabby wants a pink My Little Pony. And this was Pink My Little Pony, only the kind of Lady Di version.
This is Liz Hurley is the sparkly pinkest one.
Pinkest My Little Pony.
Oh my word!
And she also has all of that delicious.
She's naughty.
She's naughty, but then she comes from a sort of a category of humans that are long disappeared, but who I read and long to exist, from Dorothy Parker to all of the Mitfords. People who spiritually smoke and sort of go and say cutting things because there's no social consequence.
Yes.
You know, it's like that last vestige of delicious aristocracy. That's what I love. You know, so I went up to her and I said hello, and she was wearing this some kind of gold magnificence, the one that there's a picture of me standing next to her in the coffin. And I spoke to her about 4 minutes. I had my chat prepped because I knew it wasn't going to go initially well. I don't do well with first encounter, especially with something as camp as that. So I started talking. I said, "Are you talking to my breasts?" And I had nowhere to go because they were there. So I said, "Yes, actually, Elizabeth, I am." And, you know, it would be absurd not to, because they're there.
They're there.
What are you supposed to do?
Yes.
You know, are you looking at the Alps? You know, no. Anyway.
But I can hear her saying that, and I can see you looking at them, and then friendship. I imagine the two of you getting on unbelievably well.
Well, we haven't spent enough time together yet because I was her executive and actually taking the show very seriously, as you could imagine, as you entertaining but also serious. So not yet, but you never know. What I will say, and this is really interesting, both she and Damien, who I met, her son.
Gosh, he's beautiful.
He's beautiful. I think what's really interesting as well is when people ask you about them, they have the most beautiful manners. And you talk about being kind, and I think sometimes that's work, but manners are really important. In other words, and I don't always get this right, I'm sure, you know, but leaving somebody feeling happier than when you found them. You know, the late Queen.
All for that.
The late Queen Mum was once having dinner with some rude Americans, as they were described, and God knows how they got in. Perhaps they had won in a raffle. You know, and they said something, "Oh, Your Majesty," and I was like, sort of panicked. All the equities were ready to pounce and have these people removed. Why do you think the most important thing is bringing up children? I mean, bad accent, we get the point. And everybody was sort of horrified that somebody had spoken to the Queen Mother, and she paused for a second without missing a beat. She said, "I think it's manners." And that's the thing. I saw.
I agree. This happened the other day. This happened the other day. And I'm going to show you. I was on the train, on the tube, and there were lots of young men from 16 to 40 sitting down. And I got up because I saw an elderly lady get on. I said, "Would you like my seat?" And she said, "Oh, thank you very much." And there were two elderly gentlemen, and then the next stop there was another elderly woman with walking sticks. So I just went up and I said, "Excuse me, would you mind giving your seat to this lady?"
Yeah.
And I was expecting them. And they went, "Oh yeah, of course." And so then I asked the next one, because there were two men. Yes, of course. Then I asked the last guy, who was, I'd say, probably nearly 40. And I said, "Would you mind giving, I'm really sorry." And he said, "But it's nothing to do with you." I said, "I know it's not, but it would be really nice, because this guy, he's standing there and I think he would really appreciate it." He said, "Well, it's nothing to do with you, but yeah, if you want me to." I said, "No, do you want to?" He said, "No, I don't." I went, "Okay, then don't do it." And then he sat there and everyone's eyes were on him.
Right.
But he then got up and he gave the seat. And then he said to me, he said, "I'm really sorry. It was a really bad reaction of mine." And then he said to the man again, "I'm really sorry." And then I was talking to these young men who'd all stood up. And I said, I wasn't trying to be bullish or anything. I just thought it would be a nice thing to do. And the youngest of them said, "Nobody's ever taught me that before."
Isn't that lovely?
And we had a lovely conversation.
So nice.
And I thought the last one was going to get angry, but they didn't know, and actually it was just polite, and they were being nice, but they weren't being rude. So you just manners need to be taught.
Don't you find it? I mean, obviously, I've become, because I'm a late adopter of these social media platforms, but don't you find it so moving when people put on content of people just doing spontaneously kind things?
Absolutely. Be kind. Be kind. There's so many dark things going on. Be kind. You are very kind.
But it is everywhere. It's everywhere. Like,
kindness, yes.
Kindness is everywhere. We live in an algorithm, us humankind. It's not new, by the way. It's not necessary. In fact, it's not social media. Way before, from the invention of the printing press, if it bled, it led. That's the stuff. It's true of plays. It's why so much of Shakespeare is dark. I'm just thinking about this sort of, as I'm sitting here with you now, Kit Marlowe. I mean, or John Webster. I mean, the Duchess of Malfi. I mean, bloody hell, they give that to kids in A level. I mean, it's basically the theatrical form of a video nasty. And yet we're wedded to the darkness of humankind in plays and in newspapers, and consequently writ large and now amplified. So it's in our bedrooms on social media. What we forget is all of the good stuff that people do every single day.
Absolutely.
And I know you're so focused on this, but I think that's why when we see it, and it's everywhere, but if we search it out, it touches us so deeply that it immediately reaches into whatever we call it. For me, it's a soul, because I'm a person of faith, and it makes us cry.
Yeah, I think, but it is, like you say, I think we all need to be reminded that it's there, and it is everywhere. And there are good people, and there are kind people, and there are generous people, and there are warm, there are joyful.
Mostly, I would say. I mean, genuinely, mostly.
But we get fed.
Of
the
course.
darkness.
Mostly, have a conversation with somebody, ask them the 5 good things they're proud of, and they'll tell you something incredible. It's just true of in nearly every encounter. If the tragedy is we have to look for it.
Talk to people.
Right. I saw, just really quickly, again, it must have been because I've become addicted. I need to work on it. Like anybody else, I am totally wedded to the dopamine hits of social media.
Read T.J. Power's book. He's been on this.
I will do. But really, really quickly, I saw Catherine, Princess of Wales, or Kate. She was walking in. I don't know how it ended up in my algorithm. My algorithm is quite a boring one, and it was her. She was walking in somewhere with it's Prince George, isn't it? And Will, like I know him, like we're mates, Anyway,
he's on the phone now. He's saying,
well, you probably do. You know everyone. I mean, if there is a global conspiracy, you're at the centre of it. I mean, your phone Rolodex is everybody. Basically, who did it? Who's responsible for whatever going on? Gabby Roslin. Anyway, point is, she walks into this thing, and it looks like George's wearing a little suit, and he's a little bit hot, and he just says, "I'm hot," and very sweetly. William, Prince William, says something about, "Oh, are you?" and is quite sort of worried and does the fatherly thing. And you could tell Kate was too, and she would have undoubtedly, as a mum, sort of say, "Look, if you're too hot, take it off." But her first impulse, and I hope people find this clip, was to say, "Yes, yes, George," the young one is, "Yes, George, but now let's think about, without missing a beat, now let's think about the people who have been waiting for us in the hot sun to see us." I just thought,
yeah.
Wow. Like, you want to know why she gets it, right?
Yeah.
first think about others. I thought that was such a, I've never really thought about the royal family. I don't necessarily like anybody else, but boy, is that the stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, but you know what?
To me.
Do you know, I absolutely agree with you, but always you think of others, look after yourself.
Yeah.
And I want you to look after yourself as well, because you're very important to me and to many other people. But all of those things, and there are good, kind people out there. And I love that you ended this podcast with us.
It was heaven. Thank you.
Thank you.